everybody, to the deep dive. Today we are going to take a look at something that you might not typically think about when you think about retirement planning.
Okay.
Gold.
Yeah.
We've got a whole bunch of research here on how gold can actually play a role in securing your financial future,
Right.
particularly through this thing called a gold IRA.
Yeah, it's a very interesting concept for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, we all know about the traditional 401ks and stocks and bonds and all that.
Yeah.
But gold offers like a totally different approach, one that is really rooted in its, historical stability and its role as like a safe haven during times of,
Uncertainty.
Yeah, uncertainty, exactly.
See, that's what I'm interested in.
Yeah.
You hear all this stuff about gold being a hedge against inflation,
Mm-hmm.
but what does that actually mean in practice?
Right.
And how can that actually benefit someone who's planning for retirement,
Yeah.
maybe decades down the line?
Right.
I'm intrigued, but I'm also a little skeptical,
Well, you should be. Yeah, I mean, you should always approach any investment with a healthy dose of skepticism.
Yeah.
But what's really fascinating about gold is that it's got this very unique quality.
Okay.
Unlike a company which can, go belly up,
Right.
or a currency that can be devalued,
Yeah.
gold has intrinsic value.
Mm-hmm.
It's tangible, it's finite.
Right.
It's been considered a store of wealth for centuries.
So it's no matter what happens in the world,
Yeah,
a gold bar is still a gold bar,
pretty much, yeah.
But how does that translate into a retirement strategy?
Right, and that's where this idea of a gold IRA comes in.
Okay.
It's essentially a self-directed IRA.
Okay.
But instead of, holding paper assets like stocks or bonds, you're actually holding physical gold.
Wow.
Like coins, bars, bullion,
Okay.
that meet specific IRS standards.
So you're telling me I could potentially have a retirement account that's backed by actual gold?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
But wouldn't that be a logistical nightmare?
Well,
Where do you even store all that gold?
Yeah, it's definitely not as simple as stashing some gold coins under your mattress.
Right.
There are a lot of regulations
Sure.
and security measures to think about.
Yeah.
You would need a custodian,
Okay.
which is a specialized company that manages, purchase the storage, all the legalities involved in a gold IRA.
Okay. So it's not a do-it-yourself kind of thing.
No.
Got it.
Definitely not.
But let's get back to this whole safe haven thing.
Yeah.
Our sources mentioned that during economic downturns, people really flock to gold.
Yeah, they do.
Why is that?
Well, think about it this way.
Okay.
When the stock market's crashing, currencies are fluctuating, there's a general sense of panic in the air.
Yeah.
Gold tends to, retain its value.
Right.
It's seen as a tangible asset, a store of wealth that's,
Less susceptible.
Yeah, less susceptible to the, whims of the market.
So it's like a security blanket for your portfolio.
Kinda, yeah.
While everything else is going haywire, gold is just chilling there.
Exactly.
Just holding steady.
And that's, that's very appealing for people when it comes to long-term investments, like retirement savings. You're
Right.
aiming for stability,
Exactly.
preservation of capital over decades.
Right, because when you're thinking about retirement,
Right.
you're not necessarily trying to hit it big overnight.
Exactly.
You want slow and steady growth.
Yep.
And protection from major losses, right?
That's it.
And that's where gold's role as a hedge against inflation comes in.
Right.
So as the cost of goods and services rises over time, the purchasing power of your money
decreases,
right?
Yeah.
But gold has historically tended to hold its value.
It has.
So it's acting as a buffer against that erosion.
It is.
Okay, so let me see if I've got this straight.
Okay.
Gold is a double whammy protection plan
Okay.
for your retirement savings.
All right.
It can potentially shield you from major market downturns.
Yes.
And it can help preserve your purchasing power as inflation is eating away at the value of traditional currency.
You got it.
Okay.
It's not a guaranteed return by any means.
Sure.
But it offers a unique layer of security and diversification.
Yeah.
That's just different from,
From traditional investments.
yeah, your typical investment.
This is making a lot more sense now.
Good.
But our sources also mention some potential downsides to gold IRAs.
Of course.
It can't all be sunshine and rainbows, right?
Right.
What are the drawbacks we need to be aware of before we get too excited about all this gold?
Yeah. I mean, it's crucial to weigh both sides,
Yeah.
before making any investment decisions.
For sure.
One of the main drawbacks with the gold IRA is the cost.
Okay.
There are setup fees.
All right.
annual maintenance fees,
Uh-huh.
storage fees for that, secure depository we talked about.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, all of those costs
Yeah.
eat into your potential returns.
Sure.
It's like any investment, you got to factor in those expenses.
But what about the actual gold itself? Our sources mention that there are specific IRS regulations about what qualifies for a gold IRA.
Oh, yeah.
You can't just go buy any gold trinket and call it a day.
You cannot. No.
Right.
The IRS has very strict purity standards.
Good.
Usually it has to be like 99.5% pure or higher.
Wow.
Plus, they only approve specific bullion coins.
Okay.
And bars like, American Eagles, Canadian Maple Leafs, British Sovereigns.
Wow. So there's like a whole approved list.
There is, yes.
It sounds like there's a lot to keep track of.
There is. And that's another reason why
Yeah.
working with a reputable custodian is so crucial.
Right.
They will make sure that you're selecting, IRS-approved gold.
Right.
And navigating all the regulations correctly.
Yeah.
Believe me, the penalties for non-compliance are...
Oh, I bet. Yikes. Okay. Definitely don't want to mess with the IRS.
No, you don't.
So let's say you've got your approved gold.
Uh-huh.
It's all securely stored.
Okay.
You're paying your fees.
Yeah.
Are you done?
Not quite.
Okay.
Remember, this is a long-term investment strategy.
Wow.
It's not a set-it-and-forget-it situation. You need to stay informed about, gold prices, monitor economic trends.
Right.
Be prepared to, make adjustments to your overall retirement plan as needed.
So it requires some active management.
A little bit, yeah.
It's not just like passively watching the gold prices go up.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of gold prices,
Yeah.
you mentioned earlier that, gold doesn't pay dividends or interest.
Yeah.
And for some investors, that lack of passive income might be a deal breaker.
Right. That was something that stood out to me, too.
Yeah.
It's like with stocks,
Yeah.
you have the potential for dividends.
Mm-hmm.
Bonds pay interest. But with gold, it seems like your only hope is for the price of gold itself to go up.
That is true.
Right.
That is true. But it's important to remember that, gold plays a different role in your portfolio.
Okay.
It's not about generating income. It's about capital preservation and hedging against risk.
So when economic uncertainty hits,
Yeah.
gold often rises in value,
It often does.
potentially offsetting any losses you might be experiencing in other investments.
Exactly.
There's like a counterbalance.
It is.
While other assets might be tanking, gold is there to like cushion the blow.
That's it.
Okay.
It's about, diversifying your portfolio.
Right.
And having a safeguard against the unexpected.
Sure.
Think of it this way.
Okay.
If a major global event occurs, like a recession or a political crisis or a pandemic,
Right.
gold historically has held its value,
Wow.
offering a sense of stability
Yeah.
when other investments might be in free fall.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It's like a safety net
Kind of.
for your retirement saving.
Yeah.
A way to like weather those economic storms that,
Right.
inevitably come along.
They do.
But our sources also mentioned that like
Yeah.
certain economic factors can influence gold's performance.
They do.
We talked about interest rates briefly earlier,
Right.
but what other factors come into play?
Well, one key factor is the value of the U.S. dollar.
Okay.
Gold is typically priced in U.S. dollars.
Right.
So when the dollar weakens against other currencies, gold tends to become more expensive. It's an inverse relationship.
So if the dollar is strong,
Yeah.
gold might be less appealing to investors.
Exactly.
Interesting.
And then you have things like, geopolitical events,
Sure.
central bank policies,
Right.
even the supply and demand dynamics of the gold market itself. It's a
Right.
very complex interplay of forces.
Wow, it sounds like there's a lot more to it than just like buying some gold and hoping for the best.
It is, yeah.
That's why it's so important to do your research.
Absolutely.
Stay informed.
Yes.
And potentially consult with a financial advisor
Yeah.
who specializes in like alternative investments like gold.
Right.
There's no one-size-fits-all answer.
No.
And what works for one person's retirement plan might not be suitable for another.
Exactly.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
It's about finding the right balance for your individual circumstances,
Right.
your risk tolerance,
Yep.
your long-term goals.
Your long-term goals. That's it.
But before we wrap up this deep dive,
Okay.
I want to circle back to this idea of gold as a hedge against inflation,
Sure.
because that seems like especially relevant
Yeah.
in today's economic climate.
It is. You're right.
Inflation has been a major concern
Big time.
for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And, gold's historical ability to maintain its purchasing power during inflationary periods It's like one of its biggest selling points.
It is, for sure.
But isn't that historical performance?
Yeah.
No guarantee of future results.
That's always the caveat with any investment.
Right.
Past performance is never a guarantee of future returns.
Right.
But I think understanding how gold has behaved
Yeah.
in previous economic cycles can provide valuable insights. For
Yeah.
example, during the high inflation of the 1970s,
Yeah.
gold prices soared.
Oh, wow.
So while we can't predict the future,
Sure.
that historical precedent can offer, I think, some reassurance
Right.
to investors seeking protection from rising prices.
So it's like
Yeah.
looking back at the playbook of history
Kinda?
to see how gold might perform
Yeah,
in similar situations.
that's it.
Interesting.
One interesting thing to consider, though, is that
Okay.
gold isn't just this passive asset
Okay.
that's just sitting there waiting for inflation to hit.
Okay.
It also has industrial uses
Right.
in technology, healthcare, even aerospace.
Oh, that's right. I remember reading something about gold being used in electronics and medical devices.
Yes, exactly.
So it's not just like,
It's not just a shiny object.
yeah,
Yeah.
that people hoard when they're worried about the economy.
No, it's not. It's got real-world applications
Yeah.
that contribute to its overall value
Right.
and demand.
Okay.
And that demand can then influence its price
Yeah.
independent of any, inflation fears.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's even more to the story of gold than we initially thought.
There is.
It's not just a hedge against inflation.
No.
It's a multifaceted asset with a long history,
Long history.
tangible value,
Yeah.
and even industrial applications.
That's right.
This is fascinating.
It is.
And while gold might not be the right fit for everyone's retirement plan,
It might not. No.
it's definitely worth exploring.
It is.
For those seeking diversification, long-term stability, and a potential safeguard
For sure.
against economic uncertainty.
Yeah, I'm convinced.
Me too.
Hmm.
But before we get too carried away
Hey.
and start building our own personal Fort Knoxes,
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's time to wrap up
Yeah, okay.
this part of our deep dive.
Sounds good.
Welcome back to the deep dive. We've been uncovering the intriguing world of gold as a retirement investment.
We have.
We went through its history, its allure,
Yeah.
the intricacies of gold IRAs, the benefits, the drawbacks,
Yeah.
and even how global events can shape its role in your portfolio.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in.
I
man.
know, right? I'm still processing all this information.
Yeah.
It's really challenged like my preconceived notions about gold and retirement planning.
Yeah.
I used to think of it as something that was only for like doomsday preppers
Right.
or people who like had a penchant for pirate treasure.
Right.
But now I'm starting to see how it can be like a strategic component
It can be.
of a well-rounded retirement portfolio.
It can.
You've mentioned this idea of gold offering like peace of mind
Yeah.
a couple of times now.
I have.
What exactly do you mean by that?
Well, for me, it's about having a tangible asset
Okay.
that has intrinsic value.
Mm-hmm.
It's something you can hold in your hand.
Yep.
It's something that has weathered economic storms for
Okay,
centuries. So knowing that you have that as part of your retirement plan can really provide a sense of security,
Okay.
especially when your other investments are experiencing volatility.
I see what you mean.
Yeah,
It's like having an anchor in a turbulent sea.
that's a good way to put it.
While stocks and bonds might be like riding a waves,
Mhm.
gold is there, grounded and stable.
Exactly.
And while no investment is without risk, of course,
Of course not.
gold's historical performance
Yeah,
as a hedge against inflation,
right.
currency devaluation, it's pretty compelling.
It is.
I mean, think about it. If like a major currency crisis were to occur, or if like inflation were to spiral out of control,
It's a real possibility.
gold would likely retain its value,
Right.
while like paper assets would just plummet.
It would, yeah.
So that's almost like an insurance policy
It's a good way to think about it.
for your retirement savings.
Yeah,
Not something you necessarily want to like cash in,
right.
but a safeguard in case things go south.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah,
It's about diversifying your portfolio
right.
and having that safety net in place
Mhm.
for,
Yeah.
unforeseen events that could impact your financial well-being.
Man, this has been an incredibly insightful
It has.
deep dive.
It has.
But before we wrap up,
Okay.
I want to leave our listeners with something to ponder.
Oh.
If you have the opportunity to hold a piece of history, a tangible asset
Yeah.
that has held its value for millennia.
Literally.
Wouldn't you at least consider
Right.
adding it to your retirement plan?
You would be crazy not to at least consider it.
Yeah. It's not just about like numbers and charts.
Right.
It's about securing your future
Exact.
with something that has stood.
That has stood the test of time.
The test of time.
Yeah,
I think that's a really powerful way to frame it.
I do too.
Ultimately, the decision is a personal one.
Of course.
But, I encourage everyone to explore the potential of gold
Yeah.
and how it might fit into their own
Yes.
unique journey towards a secure and fulfilling retirement.
I agree. I agree.
Thank you for joining us on this enlightening
It's been fun.
deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep. Welcome back to the deep dive. We've been talking about this whole world of gold as a retirement investment.
We have.
And, we've gone through the history, the allure,
Mm-hmm.
the intricacies of gold IRAs,
Yeah.
the benefits, the drawbacks, even how global events can shape its role in a portfolio.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground. It's been fascinating
It has been.
to kind of unpack how, gold's tangible nature
Right.
and its historical performance make it a potential safe haven in times of,
Yeah.
economic volatility.
I'm still processing all this
Yeah.
information.
Yeah.
It's really like challenged how I used to think about gold and retirement planning.
Right. Yeah.
I used to think of it as something only for like doomsday preppers.
Right.
Or, people who just really like pirate treasure.
Right. Right.
But now I'm starting to see
Yeah.
how it can be like
Yeah.
a strategic component of a well-rounded retirement portfolio.
It can be. It definitely can be.
You've mentioned this idea of gold offering peace of mind
I have. Yeah.
a couple of times.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
Well,
Yeah.
for me, it's about having like a tangible asset
Uh-huh.
with intrinsic value. It's something you can hold in your hand.
Yeah.
It's something that's weathered economic storms
Right.
for centuries.
Right.
So, knowing that you have that
Yeah.
as part of your retirement plan can provide a sense of security.
Yeah.
Especially when your other investments
Right.
are experiencing a lot of volatility.
So it's like that anchor
Yeah.
You know.
That's a good way to put it.
in a turbulent sea.
Yeah.
While stocks and bonds are riding the waves,
Mm-hmm.
gold is there, grounded and stable.
I too.
And,
Yeah.
while no investment is without risk,
Of course not.
gold's historical performance is a hedge against inflation,
Yeah.
currency devaluation.
Right.
It's compelling.
It is. It is.
Think about it this way.
Okay.
If a major currency crisis were to occur,
Yeah.
or if inflation were to spiral out of control.
Right. I mean, it's a real possibility.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Gold would likely retain its value,
He likely would.
while paper assets would plummet.
Yeah.
So it's almost like an insurance
Be a
policy
good way to think about it. Yeah.
for your retirement savings.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something you necessarily want to cash in,
Right.
but it's a safeguard in case things go south.
Yeah. That's a great analogy. It's
Uh-huh.
about diversifying your portfolio
Yeah.
and having that safety net for,
Yeah.
the unforeseen events that could really impact
Exactly.
your financial well-being.
This has been a really insightful deep dive.
It has. It has.
But before we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with something to ponder.
Okay.
If you had the opportunity to hold a piece of history,
Mm-hmm.
a tangible asset that has held its value for millennia,
Literally. Yeah.
wouldn't you at least consider adding it to your retirement plan?
Yeah. I mean, you would be crazy not to at least
Yeah.
consider it.
It's not just about numbers and charts.
No.
It's about securing your future
Right.
with something that has stood the test of time.
That has stood the test of time. Exactly.
I think that's a really powerful way to frame it.
It is. It is.
Ultimately, the decision is a personal one.
Of course it is.
But I encourage everyone to explore the potential of gold and how it might fit into their own unique journey toward
Yes.
a secure and fulfilling retirement.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Thank you for joining us
It's been fun.
on this enlightening deep dive.
It has.
Until next time,
Yes.
keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.